Hello everybody, welcome to the Wine with Jimmy channel, here with your host Jimmy Smith. This is an educational channel for things all related with the world of wine. We do everything here from beginners all the way up to professionals, and here we're looking at the WSET Level 4 Diploma, quite high echelons of wine education and knowledge. We are starting our little quest here on white wine making, so specific options to white wine making within the WSET Level 4 wine production. And this is on grape reception and skin contact. So we're going to talk through the world of skin contact, what it means, the definition, and certain types of wines and grape varieties that will go through skin contact, all the way up to what we would call orange or amber wines, the wonderful world of orange and amber wines. Delighted always to teach about that. Now, as always, please put your comments, questions, theories, concerns down in the comments section below, because this video is available on the wonderful free world of YouTube. So below, please pop that in. And whilst you're there, please click subscribe and click also like. So yes, if you do have any other way you want to get in contact, you can do so via social media. You see at the bottom of every slide, but also direct at the e-learning website, which is called Wine with Jimmy. So that's www.winewithjimmy.com. Also, if you wanted to sign up to all of that wonderful content at the e-learning portal, you will have exclusive content free from advertising. Isn't that just the world we want? Now, this overlaps a little bit, this video here, in terms of general winemaking options. So within the syllabus of WSET, there's something called general winemaking options, and then we go into specifics of whites, reds, and rosé. So we're now looking at white, so there is some overlap. And for options, you'll see at the bottom there regarding transportation, chilling, sorting, destemming, and crushing of grapes, you'll see transportation to winery and grape reception in the general winemaking options. So there are videos that are separate that you can look at within the e-learning portal. Maybe some of them are free on YouTube. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. Okay, so let's talk about what skin contact is all about. It's not just a handshake or a special handshake. In the world of wine, it's more to it. Skin contact is the process of leaving the juice in contact with the skins to extract sometimes important and wanted compounds from the skins. And this is similar really to the cold soaking process in red wine production. Okay, and there are some lovely green grapes and white grapes there that's in contact with the juice to extract those wonderful compounds. So what are we extracting? Well, let's have a look. Here we are, the results of skin contact. So when carried out on crushed white grapes, the main purpose, the be-all and end-all purpose, really is to enhance the extraction of aroma and flavor compounds and precursors. So flavor compounds which are found in the grape, precursors that are found which will come out later in fermentation, and also to enhance the texture of the wine by extracting a small amount of tannin. So really, if you look at the three arrows here, the first one here says aromas and flavors. This is what you're going to really start to increase with this process. Mouthfeel, texture will come through with a bit of tannin, and then potentially some color will be produced as well, because you are giving the juice some skin contact. But this is not a technique, because it sounds great, right? More aroma, flavor, more mouthfeel, tannin, and some color. So 2 of those out of 3 sounds very, very good for the wine. But it's not a technique that is suited to all styles of wine. And also, if it's used too excessively, it can make white wine seem bitter and coarse in the mouth, and often quite dark in color. And that can be a real real turn-off, an aesthetic turn-off to a consumer. The colour is important. We want to drink wines today that are quite clear, most of us. And we want white wines to be fresh, not necessarily structured and bitter. So it can be a turn-off for some wine consumers, for example. So let's talk a little bit about wines that are made with no skin contact, the kind of styles we make and the kind of processes. So the majority of white wines are made with zero or very minimal skin contact. The grapes are normally crushed and then pressed immediately. This is because the principal aroma and flavor compounds of white grapes that are desirable in white wines are actually found mostly in the pulp or where the pulp attaches to the skin. So you don't actually need much more than that. To further limit the contact between the juice and skins and to reduce oxidation, some winemakers will practice what's going on in this picture. So you'll see on the right-hand side, there are whole bunches of green grapes. They are being directly put into a press. So whole bunches, and this is what we call whole bunch pressing. So this is whole bunches of uncrushed fruit going into the press. Okay, now this actually will be found in greater detail in pressing of the grape in the general winemaking options. But really, the producers here are trying to get the freshest juice out here, because when they are pressed, those grapes very gently, that juice is the first at seeing oxygen at that point. And specifically, if that vat is flush with things like nitrogen and other gases, then of course it's going to be kept very, very fresh. Next up is, in addition to keeping skin contact to a minimum, and if this is the usual choice, it will be the usual choice for underripe fruit, because skin contact would extract bitter flavors and astringent tannins from those skins. So if there is some problem with the fruit because the specific vintage has been poor or cooler, or there's been problems with weather towards the end of the year, then they will really limit the amount of skin contact. So often with producers that prefer some skin contact, you will actually discuss sometimes with them in certain vintages that they will reduce that due to the problems of that specific year. If they continued as normal, they will get astringent and bitter characteristics into their wine. So underripe fruit will mean that there will be very little or no skin contact as well. Minimal skin contact is also typical for white wines where delicate fruity flavors, minimal color, and a very delicate mouthfeel are desired. So gentle, very sort of ready to drink wines, things like Vino Verdes, Muscadets, and the list can go on in terms of those styles. So there's a Muscadet style for you just there. Other non-skin contact styles as well. So it's typically the choice for wines that are designed to be drunk early, because the tannins that would be extracted during skin contact would not have time to soften. And also a period of skin contact slows the processing, so the production of the wine. And it's another winemaking procedure that needs to be thought out and requires equipment, time, money, labor. It's less likely, therefore, to be carried out for inexpensive wines for logistics and cost purposes. So there's a very mass-produced Gallo Pinot Grigio, and that's an early drinking style. Of course, it's not going to go through skin contact. You can see the color is so water white that, of course, it's very much avoiding skin contact in that instance. So what about skin contact styles? So some that may go through some skin contact. So up to this point, we talked about non-skin contact. So certain grape varieties may go through skin contact. So skin contact, as we learned earlier, maximizes flavor extraction, and therefore it is most effectively used on aromatic grape varieties that have loads of aromas to give to a wine and therefore can be extracted, such as Riesling, Gewürztraminer, Viognier, Muscat, and Sauvignon Blanc. What a list of usual suspects there for your real intense aromatic styles. All of those very aromatic. So in these aromatic varieties that are very, very rarely matured in oak, it's a way of enhancing texture. So not only in maximizing their aroma and flavor, but also potentially giving a little bit of weight to the wine, a little bit of texture. But just conversely, to give you a opposite point here, some winemakers believe that the technique of skin contact for these varieties will lead to a homogenized nature of the wine, too much similar characteristics, which will therefore reduce the variations between grape varieties and terroir, different vineyard sites. So it is dependent. I mean, that certainly comes into play when we're talking about extensive amounts of skin contact. That's often a massive argument against things like orange and amber wines, that there is less of a taste of terroir in those styles. That, I mean, I'm not saying I'm flying the flag for that, but that certainly is something which is commented on in certainly by certain people. So we've just been talking about some aromatic varieties there. Riesling, Sauvignon, Viognier, Muscat, Gewürztraminer can have skin contact. So in what conditions and how long? So first of all, on this slide, the kind of time on skins. And this is all before fermentation at this point. I haven't got to fermentation yet. So this is skin contact before fermentation. So time and temperature are very important here. So we're going to talk about time first of all. Now, skin contact times can range from, very, very short amount of time, like an hour, half an hour, up to 24 hours and even longer. With greater times in skins, of course, leading to greater extraction of flavor and tannins. But that needs to be offset to the wine's character, its acidity, its balance needs to be thought of. So if you like skin contact, you're doing it at this stage, you just can't go, oh, I just store it for 5 days and loads of skin contact. If the wine hasn't got enough balance and acidity there, you need to, of course, balance that out. So that's time. What about temperature? So as we mentioned, this is actually quite similar to the cold soaking or cold maceration with red wines before fermentation. So chilling the juice reduces the rate of extraction of those flavors and tannins, permitting more control and more measuring of this process. It also reduces the rate of oxidation and therefore the threat from spoilage organisms, including the likelihood of a spontaneous fermentation if you're looking to avoid that. The juice will be typically chilled down to below 15 degrees Celsius, that's below 59 degrees Fahrenheit. The wine is usually pressed to separate the skins and juice before fermentation will begin. Okay, so at this point, we've just been mentioning about leading up to fermentation. But what about skin contact for white wines during fermentation? So this would be in addition to the press contact. Now, this is what we would call the area of orange, amber, or skin contact wines. Now, skin contact is all encompassing for skin contact before fermentation and during fermentation. But the terminology, the unofficial terminology for one that's gone through contact during fermentation is what we would call an orange or an amber wine, this depending on who you are. So this is more, this is less common than what we've been talking about with skin contact before fermentation. But this is basically the same methodology as making a red wine, but with your white wine grapes, your green grapes, your orange grapes, whatever you want to call them. The resulting wines are usually, of course, called orange or amber, as we mentioned, and that's due to their color. And their taste profile can be mind-blowing in a very positive way because it's different often to what a lot of us are used to, because you get much more intense characteristics coming from those skins. You will have aromatic and flavor profile, which is off the charts. Phenolic compounds, which are extracted, so more structure, more tannin, possibly more bitterness and astringency, depending on the levels of acidity in balance as well. So you'll often find things like dried fruits, dried herbs, spices, hay, nuttiness. It's really fascinating, this category. It's a category I'm madly passionate about because it challenges my ability to taste, which I'm always very, very exciting about. So winemakers who will make orange or amber wines are often those who work with traditional methods, not exclusively, but often with traditional methods and minimal intervention. You may call this natural winemaking. And it's very common that these wines are fermented with ambient yeasts, without temperature control, and with no addition of sulfur dioxide. They often use the natural protection from the skins here for the protection against oxygen and issues around microbial spoilage. So these wines are often very traditional, very classic in countries like Georgia, Armenia, but also emerging in places, of course, like Friuli, Venezia Giulia, Slovenia, Sicily, but many places around the world as well. They are fascinating to search out. Okay, so that brings me to the end here of white wine making on grape reception and skin contact, wonderfully finishing on the world of orange wine. I think I might need to go and get a glass of it now, and you can come and get a glass as well, or come to a class. Make sure you do, if you come to London, come and see me for a class, glass or bottle of orange wine. If you do have any comments or questions, please do get in touch. You can do so via the social media that you see at the bottom of every slide, the comment section here of the YouTube video as well, or by direct at info@winewithjimmy.com. It's been an absolute pleasure. Please take care of yourselves. See you very soon. Goodbye.